Initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Let's rock!
Welcome back to the Resupply with me, Guy Next Door.
Me, DK.
And me, Than.
Bringing you your semi-regular double tap of all things Space Marines and Laserforce. Right to the point today, gentlemen. Punchy intro. Bloody, that's a good one. Let's keep that. I'll record that one, and we'll just play it every time. Hello.
Oh, thank God. It's too much pressure.
Nice to see you guys. You guys good? How are you? It's been a minute. It's been a couple weeks, and I missed you. I missed you all. Nice to see you as well, chat. You guys good? Is everyone good?
I mean, things have been better. Had a sick cat last week, which screwed up a trip away, and so that never makes anybody super happy. So.
No, it does not.
Fortunately, veterinary care is so cheap in our country, so I'm sure it didn't set you back at all.
Oh, fuck, yeah. It's not ideal.
No.
No.
Not ideal.
Not great. But yeah, Kitty's fine. So
Good.
that's that's the silver lining of everything. Eldest is fine.
As long as she's doing fine, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, she just put a $1,500 hole in my budget that I wasn't expecting. So
That's
At
good.
least it didn't happen right before you were supposed to leave for Nats.
Yeah.
Oh, if what happened had happened like the day before I was supposed to leave, I would have had to have piked on Nats. Like
That would have been a real shame.
yeah, it like I would not have been able to. Yeah, wouldn't have been able to leave because there was then medicine that had to be given on schedule, and because of the timing, like trying to work out anything else to be able to take care of that would not have worked. So I take her back in tomorrow for another set of blood work, and assuming everything is the way it should be, we're good. If everything is not the way it should be, then that is a bridge that I need to cross when that happens. I think everything at this point is fine, though. Like, she's definitely...
I saw her hop up on the desk, so it seems like she's feeling okay.
Yeah, she's doing okay.
That's good.
That is
We
very
love
good.
Dan's cats on this show.
If you hadn't been able to go, then I probably, Murphy's Law dictates that I would then buy my flights to Nats. So it's probably about right.
Next man up.
Yeah. Raya, I am very sad that I am not going to get to see you or anyone else next week. But there's some cool stuff coming, so it's not all doom and gloom on this side of the world. Thank you guys for the gift subs. It's very nice of you. Appreciate it. Than X, thank you very much for your subscription. Appreciate it. Wow, it's not the first time today that Than has flipped me off, so we're doing good. We're doing a good job.
Well, since I'm not going to see you in a week, I need to flip you off whilst I can.
I got a message from Beans during the week, just being like, hey, just FYI, flights are only like $900 US return to Denver at the moment. I was like, well, it's actually very cheap, and it didn't occur to me at the time, even after I did the conversion. But that's real cheap. That's like pre-COVID prices. So
yeah.
I don't know why they were so cheap, and they weren't that cheap when I looked on my end. So I don't know what's going on.
I know that Air New Zealand has been running some specials in the U.S.
Okay.
And so that's probably what that's what it was. They let's put it this way. Anytime that I look at Facebook, which admittedly is not that often, the Air New Zealand ads are constantly in my feed like round trip to Auckland for $998. Round trip to, and it's like
Maybe.
bastards.
Well, I actually went away last week. Part of the many trips that aren't Nats for me over the next little while. Went and celebrated our boy Gray's 40th birthday. It was a good weekend. Yeah, he just turned 40. Blueson turned 40. It's hard living that rock and roll lifestyle. But as part of like birthday proceedings, I got some sweet Broforce rings made up, which you can't really see. So sporting this new bling, which, you know, at some point I'll definitely make some sort of jewelry available for purchase for anyone who wants one. Thank you to everyone who bought a T-shirt for Nats. We sort of shoehorned those in. They are all at well, they're all in Loveland right now. So if you're going to Nats this year and you ordered a T-shirt, there are shirts there for you. If you didn't, I don't know why people don't. And then inevitably, I've already received messages, oh, do you think we could do some more shirts? I'm like, well, I mean, if there's enough interest, we can do some, but otherwise they're going to cost a fucking fortune. So,
yeah.
See how you feel. We will dive into Nats a bit later on. He still owes Steve money, says everyone ever. But Rayo, it's all good. But we'll I'll message you after. I'll shake you down later. My money.
Yeah, shake everyone down who owes you money.
I think both of you
That
actually
also
owe me
includes
money,
me.
so you know. I don't know. I'm not sure, but we'll do that off camera in the shadowy alleyways that is the internet. You pay me
that big sub money.
Beans pay me a lot of money. In fact, maybe I should just use that. Oh no, because I basically do these things at cost. I was going to be like, I should just use all that money to buy my flights, but that's not how cost price works.
No,
yeah,
no, it's not.
Well, I think you need to do that math again.
Yeah. Right. Let's bring our guest in because we got a guest waiting in the wings. We got a lot to talk about today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast, Cody. What's up, Cody?
What's up, y'all?
It's nice to see you.
Oh yeah.
I feel like we missed a trick not having you on here last week. We spoke to your colleague and friend, and he was a bit useless. No.
I mean, he was a bit useless. Let's call it for what it is. Beans, at the best of times, is a bit useless, and at the worst of times, he's very useless. So,
Yeah.
So really, we got him at the best of times last week because he was only slightly useless.
Well, I mean, I feel that if we had got him this week, he'd be on a discount because now he's damaged stock. But you know, what are you gonna do?
That's also true.
We'll talk about a bunch of stuff. But you messaged during the week, were like, hey, do you want to hear about Armageddon from someone who actually played it? And I said, yeah, that's probably a really good idea. So yeah, thank you for bloody reaching out. And actually, on that, if anyone wants to come on the show and talk about Laserforce related things, please send us a message because I'm happy to talk to whoever wants to have a yarn, unless you gonna talk about dumb things and then no. But yeah, so you played Geddon recently. Did you have much to do with like the organization side of things, or?
I did not. I was completely hands off. I had nothing to do with any of that. In fact, the only thing that I was told is there was a decent chance that I was gonna be a captain until like a week before the tournament, where they changed their minds and decided to go from having higher level players to mid level players be captains, and
interesting.
that's what we went with.
Wait, so why? I mean, why mid tier? Like, what's the captain's job? Was it just to pick teams, or?
Pretty much. I mean, they still had their technical captain's duties that you have during the tournament. Like, if there's some kind of rule thing going on and you need a captain's meeting, they're still going to be the ones who do it.
Right.
Which is why when people were signing up, there was a question on like the little questionnaire we had that was like, would you be willing to be a captain? So they would only pick people that said yes to that.
Right.
But for the most part, it was just picking the teams. That was the most important job they had.
It's interesting that you would leave, because, I mean, as somewhat of a veteran of Force myself, whenever we break teams at home, or like just picking teams, or getting a good sense of like people's skill levels, usually that's a job for people who've been around the block a little bit, because they kind of have a good understanding. So that's an interesting choice to go with, like medium kind of talent.
Well, for the most part, the captains themselves they were experienced players, so like they knew like who everyone was that was showing up. They know people's skill level and stuff like that. So that itself wasn't a problem. In fact, the one that had the least amount of experience out of all of them ended up having, I think, the second place team that was fighting for first. So
That's awesome.
that even worked out too. So that ended up not being an issue. So
that's right. Well, I mean, I'm glad that it worked out. Like, it sounded like it worked out. That's kind of cool.
I don't know. I can see it from a wait a minute. You know, if you have the top level people being captains, like these are people that are always captains at this event. Generally, if you give it to a different player tier that doesn't normally do this, you know, then you're also helping to try to set up the continued, you know, longevity of Geddon. And granted, Geddon's been going now for over 20 years. It's, you know, it's definitely grown from what it originally was, but you get different people being captains in kind of a lower pressure.
It's a good point.
Situation with it being a draft. Now that they may go, oh, maybe I'll go ahead and be a captain during a in quotes regular Geddon where I have to put a team together, and now because you've gotten to play with so many different people that you wouldn't necessarily have been able to, which was the whole point of the draft this year. You know, maybe now some of that captaincy shit can get spread amongst more people, because, you know, it kind of sucks when you're expected like all the time to be one of the people that puts things together. And so, yeah, this seems like it. But I guess we'll see next year when who puts their hands up to be a captains and form teams. We'll see how much benefit it actually derived, but seems like a solid thing to start with.
What how was the tournament overall for you?
The tournament itself was fine.
Yeah.
I had a blast at the tournament. I was playing with different people, obviously, because it's a draft. It was a whole different team dynamic for both my team and everybody else, so it was way different than the first 3 Armageddons that I played in, to say the least.
Yeah.
Outside of the tournament, my car breaking down in Philadelphia wasn't great.
Oh, shit.
So me having to rent a car just to get back to Syracuse and play the rest of the tournament, that was something. But as for the actual playing of the laser tag, that was fine. That was fun. I had a blast.
That's awesome.
Your car broke down in Philly?
Oh, yeah, yep. In fact, the car that broke down in Philly, I don't even have anymore. I went and got a new car a couple days ago because that one was dead.
Good, you don't need that kind of negativity in your life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real bitch. Having a rent-a-car to just get home, that sucks, dude. What's that drive time?
About, depending on when you leave in the day, it's anywhere from 3.5 to 4.5 hours based on traffic.
Man, I would have. So in my mind, all these places are so far away. I have no concept of how close they actually are to you guys.
Well, Steve, I think part of that issue is that, like, you've spent kind of so much time on the West Coast where everything is super far away in comparison to everything that's up in the Northeast Corridor.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the Northeast Corridor, you can get, you know, through 5 or 6 states, 7 states in a day, not necessarily easily, but you can.
Yeah.
It's not that much of a, you know, it's not that much of a stretch. You try to do that out west, and it's like, no.
Cool desert, bro.
You're not gonna do this.
Yeah.
So
I think, like, because even like my limited time on the East Coast, like driving from driving from Detroit to Syracuse after 2018 nets. And here's another example of Beans being a little bit useless. Beans was like, oh, it's so easy. And then you could just drive from Syracuse to New York City. Like, it's all easy. Don't worry about it. It's like so short. And I was like, okay, fuck it. Let's do it.
It's easy in a sense.
He was like, it's only like a 4-hour drive. Both of those legs are like 4-hour drives. Yeah, see? 4.5 hours. Horse shit. It took us like 8 hours to get from Syracuse to New York City, I think, if memory serves. Because we got rerouted and shit. I don't know, it's stupid. But anyway, yeah.
To be fair to Beans, I did make it from New York City back home to Syracuse one time after I went to a Mets game in 4.5 hours. But I also left driving. I also left at midnight, so traffic was zero.
Yeah, okay.
There was no traffic at all.
Yeah.
On the way there, it took an hour and a half to get from New Jersey to the stadium. So.
Oh God.
That sounds normal. That sounds normal to me. Game day traffic.
Driving in New York or LA, like LA could be 2 hours from LA at any given time of the day. So.
Yeah, I can.
That's right. Okay, so how was your team? How did your team fare?
We did better than I was expecting going into the tournament.
Yeah.
Because my team ended up being mostly newer players, so it was kind of going to be a big question mark. We had 2 Blast players from Michigan that had never played before. We had 2 Tron players from Austria that had never played before.
Oh, cool.
So the whole thing was going to be a big question mark on how we did, and we ended up tied for 3rd overall,
awesome.
Which was better than my expectations going in.
Not bad.
How because this is a fairly Force-centric show. How did your team do during the Force, like during Space Marines?
That was actually our roughest system, believe it or not, even with me being there, because when it comes to Force and Armageddon that I've found, there's like 3 classes of players, I'd put it. There's your Force players,
Mm-hmm.
there's your Armageddon players who can handle themselves in Force,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's the rest of the players.
Yep.
And there's
Yeah,
a pretty
no fucking
significant
idea.
drop between the 2.
Yeah.
Because of this being a draft, this is the first time I've ever had an Armageddon where not only was I the only Force player on the team, I was the only one of either of those first 2 categories of Force that I were on the team. Nobody on my team had any resupply experience of any amount at all, even in Armageddon.
Oh,
So
God.
that was an adventure trying to figure out. So yeah, it was an uphill climb for Force, unfortunately. Everything else, though, we were pretty covered in.
Well, you could kind of, and this might just be my ignorance, but you can kind of, if you could play Space Marines, you can kind of play any other, like, tournament game. Is that obtuse? Is that not a smart thing to say?
At least when it comes to Geddon and the other systems, SM5 definitely is the most complicated, but
Right.
it also just works completely differently from everything else.
Well, because
So the mechanics itself don't
Yeah.
really translate very well.
you're not just trying to shoot people, right? Like, you've got to actually, you have those roles, those specific roles.
The only other system that really has, like, those kinds of strategic elements involved in even, like, a little bit, it would be Tron, as long as we play chips,
Yeah.
because then you at least have strategy involved of when you should use when you should be using what chips and whatnot and stuff like that, so you at least have that kind of thought. But every other system, for the most part, is mostly just
point and
shoot people.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
Zone has a little bit of the extra with it being base defense, so, like, the base is way more important than everything else, but in the long run, it is still just shoot people, get points.
Yeah, right. I do, again, we don't have that many systems here, so I'm very ignorant when it comes to the other game types. Force and Zone pretty much here. We've got Strike, but nobody, who cares?
You wouldn't even play with me at the bowling alley in Rotorua. It was very sad.
I think what I said was, but yeah, it seems like such a mind shift to have to go on and try and run a resupply and stuff. Do you guys come at it from we've got our roles and that's what we're gonna play, or do you like in that system do you try and rotate a little bit?
That's the ultimate goal, is having everyone set at something, and that's what we at least started off with, or we went in and we kind of discussed in like our like warm-up phase before the hand, like what we wanted to do for our roles, and that was our idea at first, and we stuck with it for like the first 3 games, and then ended up switching one of our resupplies with one of our scouts for the second 2, but everything else stayed the same the whole way throughout. So
What'd you play?
oh, commander.
Of course.
The ultimate goal was, knowing that I didn't have much experience behind me, was just score as many points as I can, as fast as I can, and hope it's not enough for the other team to catch up, which it was for the first 2 games, not for the 3 after that, when we played teams that also had multiple good Force players on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a different ballgame.
Good strategy, though. Try and overwhelm them like in the early game, and then hopefully you've done enough damage to kind of keep them, on that back foot. I guess, like, is there an opportunity where, like, these players who don't necessarily know Force, but they are good at laser tag, they find the, like, attacking roles a little easier, or it doesn't really translate that way?
I think it just depends on their play style in general.
Right.
Because, like, even in Force, some people are better playing back and playing defensively, and some people are better pushing up nonstop the entire game. I think it just kind of depends on how they play.
Yeah.
And plus, the benefit to everyone else who isn't a Force player is we don't play in Armageddon with the show a shoulder rule.
Yeah.
So pop shotting and stuff like that is completely legal.
Mm-hmm.
And people like me who don't normally do that get every time I play Armageddon, I have to remind myself, oh yeah, I can do
Don't
that.
step
so
out.
can they.
Yeah.
I'll sit there and get pop shot randomly by a heavy around the corner, and be like, oh shoot, I forgot about that.
Maybe that's
have
the
to, like,
handicap we
retrain
need
myself
as
for
Force
the day.
players.
Yeah, it's such a. I remember, like, in 2010, it's really the only competitive environment that I've been in where, like, where you're allowed, where the rules we play by now weren't enforced, right, or weren't in play. And
I'm so glad I missed that tournament.
Bro.
Let's talk about 2010 again.
it was heartbreaking. Like, it was such a, and it. So I've been doing some, like, not anger management, but some internal, like, recognition of times that make me irrationally angry. So case in point, being at the airport makes me irrationally angry. People who crowd around all of the luggage conveyor belts, not letting you get your bag, irrationally angry about that.
That's not irrational anger. That's very irrational anger.
Yeah,
Why are you all so fucking stupid?
Yeah, that is literally preventing you from moving along to the next step of your journey.
That's right. Yeah.
So
people who
that's
get in line before anyone's, like, because obviously with international travel you have an assigned seat, so, like, people who get in line before those announcements, irrationally angry.
That's sociopath behavior.
Okay, well then apparently I'm a sociopath because I do actually do.
You motherfucker! It makes me so angry. Anyway, so that's kind of how I felt like when people do this, and you know, like, you're in an environment where that is completely allowed, and that's the way you are supposed to play. But I think, yeah, for some of us old timers who have been ingratiated in the international for Space Marines rule set for so long, it's a thing that, like, irks me every time I see it. Like, I was watching, they had a Force tournament in Australia recently. I was watching the stream for that, and just seeing people up on the walls doing this shit, I was like, ugh! It makes me so mad.
It's funny too, because, like, every other system, which obviously doesn't play with that rules, like, I don't even have to think about it. Like, pop shotting and all that stuff is completely second nature.
Yeah.
It's nothing for me.
Yeah.
And then, like, we go to Force, and it's like SM5 brain turns on, and I completely forget about that stuff.
Yeah, exactly right. It's
probably good.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's probably better that when you put on a Force suit, your SM5 brain kicks in and goes, oh, I shouldn't do that, so that, you know, when you're at an actual Force tournament, you're not getting pinged left, right, and center because your Force brain never turned on. So
yeah, I mean, it's I really like how I wish we kind of had Armageddon down here. I don't want to be the one to be like, hey, let's do Armageddon, but, like, it'd be really cool if somebody else did all the work. because I think it'll be a cool
It
experience.
is a lot of work.
Yeah, yeah, and there's also
Just ask R&T about that. It's a lot of work.
I see there's also Fallout and stuff, but we won't get into any of the Fallout kind of shit. So you spoke a little bit about like the format, like how did you feel about like this different draft style of format?
I think overall it went fine.
Mhm.
I by no means didn't have fun or anything. I'm one of those people that's like, I don't care what we do. I just want to play tag.
Yeah.
I just want to shoot people.
Fair.
So us doing a draft's perfectly fine. My only gripe with it was the fact that before they decided they were doing a draft, I was like this close to having a full force team committed to show up. And then they decided we're doing a draft, and
Yeah.
that killed all of that because any of the new players that I was recruiting obviously didn't want to play in a tournament for the first time and be put on what is to them basically a random team with
Right.
people they don't know. So if I didn't have that in the works, I would have had no issues whatsoever with
Yeah.
the draft. I would have been all for it. It's just, of course, this is the most momentum I've ever had for that,
Yeah.
and we decided to do a draft. But irrespective of that, tournament was fine. It went great.
Do you think like because that is an interesting point. Like I know it can be tough for people to play with people they aren't familiar with. Like even we as laser tag enthusiasts, some of us are a little bit on the maybe introvert or like like hard for us to put ourselves out there socially. I find it quite hard in social situations. So no, I mean
Hang on. Hang on.
No. I kid. But like for I can appreciate that it's hard for a lot of people who need the security of knowing who they're playing with or having that friendly face in their corner or whatever. So do you think like going forward it'd be like beneficial to do like one style over the other, or like change it up every year, or like what would your preference be?
I don't think it's going to be an every year they change it up type of thing, but I think that I don't know what the conversations have been since the tournament has happened because we obviously just played. But
Mhm.
before the tournament started, there were talks from people that it's like as long as this goes well, this could be something that we do every few years or so just to kind of change it up every so often.
Mhm.
So not necessarily like an every other year type of thing, but like maybe every 4 years or something like that, we decide to throw in a draft just to spice things up a little bit.
That'd be kind of cool.
Not sure how those conversations are still going now. I mean, I thought the way the tournament went was fine, so I don't see why those would change at all, but
Right.
not necessarily stuff that I'm necessarily privy to.
Yeah, right. It's above all of our pay grades.
Well, it does make sense. Like this was something. I mean, this was something that Havoc, who we've had on the show previously, had been trying to do in Geddon. Like he's been trying to have Geddon be a draft tournament for at least 10 years. Like it was something that he was always bringing up, and it was always getting shot down because people wanted to play with who they wanted to play with. And then this year, it finally hit enough of a critical mass with everybody that's like, okay, yeah, we'll try it this year. And Cody, I am sorry that it fucked you out of having a full force team for Geddon, because honestly, having more force people involved in Geddon is a good thing. I mean, the one time I played, it was a great experience. It tends not to work for me timing wise. But having this now as a successful proof of concept, and being able to go, oh yeah, we can run a draft tournament to make things, spice things up as it were, every so often, and break up some of the super teams that form. And it's always the same people playing with the same people. That also becomes a challenge, trying to bring newer people in, because they don't get to play with maybe some of the better people on different systems, because those people are like, no, we have our team and that's it. So being able to have something like this once every three or 4 years, overall probably good for Geddon just in general. And I'm glad that didn't turn into a dumpster fire. Like that.
Oh, so am I. I'm glad too.
That I think was my fear as I was like following all the buildup with it, was that it was going to get there, and then something was just going to go completely wrong with it, and it was like, nope, we're never doing this again. This is fucking terrible. Why did we waste our time this year? This, that, the other. So I'm very glad that was not the case this year.
It kind of stifles. It can stifle growth. That when you try something new and something not necessarily, like, maybe it's not even within the like powers of anyone there to control, goes wrong. It can kill like people's appetite to want to try new shit, which is a real shame. And like, that's why I'm glad that like even the different formats that we've tried in the Laserforce tournament scenes, duos, triple threat, all that sort of stuff, those for the most part I believe gone pretty well. And the proof of concept has worked. So it's pretty cool. I like that. Do you have any highlights? Any particular highlights for you for the tournament?
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a highlight, but I thought it was hilarious watching Blast get dropped because Red Team won every single game of the entire Blast session, and they couldn't even find out why the Red Team was winning every time. Like, they were testing the packs and whatnot and seeing if they had an inherent advantage, but they were like, we don't know why, but Red Team won every game. So we're probably just going to drop the system because everyone's going to get the same points anyway, so it really does absolutely nothing for it.
That's
and
random.
It was weird, too, because, like, if you looked at the results, like, on paper, my team was likely the best Blast team because I think we were the only team that had multiple Blast players on the team.
Right.
So when only 3 of the games were even close, and 2 of those close games were because we were on the green team, that kind of says something about the strength of the red side.
Oh, weird.
And that's,
I think the best example I can give is in like a 3-game-in-a-row span. There was one where we played a close game against, I think it was Fatness's team, who then turned around and got blown out by Jackal's team, who then turned around and got completely elimed by us, just because of the difference in colors. And it's just like,
and it's
that
not
just a team difference shouldn't mean that much of a difference in score.
Right.
And it's at the system was being played at the fun warehouse. Is that right?
Yep.
So it's not necessarily a maze thing either, right? Like when you play,
you wouldn't think so, because I mean, yeah, red has kind of, I think, a slight advantage in force in our arena, but it's not an advantage like that. It's not like green; it's impossible to win by any means.
That's strange. And they didn't find any faults with the suits or anything.
Not in the testing that they did right after we played, when they were having all the meetings about whether it should be dropped.
Yeah, right.
I can't wait for Red to win every game at Nats this year, and people start trying foul.
He'd just switch up the stop
St.
positions.
George beat Loveland A. There's something wrong with the green vest. I don't know what's going on.
Oh, hot take there.
But yeah, so there was that. Then there was before my car broke, going down to Ben Salem and playing Zone in their arena, which is probably my favorite arena I've played in outside of Syracuse. I love their arena for Zone. It's great, and I understand fully why they use it in tournaments for Zone, because it's just a great arena, and I always play well in Zone too. Zone's probably my best system outside of Force, so it's always a blast to play down there.
Would it be a good Space Marines arena though?
No, not at all. Imagine the Loveland arena, right? How the 3rd level is just one walkway. But imagine that is all of the upstairs in every spot, so you could just look down from basically everywhere up top.
Killbox, hate it.
You would have to ban upstairs. If it was just downstairs, I think it'd be all right for SM5. There's a few good spots to hide resupply and stuff downstairs, but as soon as you add upstairs, it's over.
That's what they did in St. George, right? Yeah.
St. George it.
Yeah. They're like, nah, not using upstairs. Fuck their noise. Which is a shame.
And then outside of the tournament itself, at the hotel down in Philly, playing Qzar and Quest 1v1s in the little foyer they had out in front because it was pouring rain outside. that was fun. That's always fun playing hotel Qzar.
When you guys do that, is that something that you have to go to like hotel management and be like, hey, look, can we use your facilities for this, or do you just do it?
From what I understand, we just do it. I've never seen, unless this is something that is like communicated ahead of time, like when they're actually like reserving the hotel, like, hey, this might happen.
That's so funny.
To my knowledge, they just do it.
Welcome to the Hotel California. Amazing. Such a lovely phaser. So I would imagine that's such a trip for like any of the hotel staff to walk out into a car park or into like a foyer or like their ballroom or something, and there's like 50 people standing around doing this at each other.
I can tell you the multiple like limos bringing people back from a wedding reception to the hotel. Is what was going on in the front. They're like, what is this going on over here?
You can do Lord of the Rings in the back of a limo, right? That's a thing. That's amazing, dude.
Just don't roll like in Loveland where the neighbors just come out and start brandishing on you.
Yeah, I'd be worried about that shit. Yeah. Yeah, like the police get called. That'd be that's hard case, dude. Right on. What else did I have? I think that's all for that. Was there anything else you wanted to kind of accuse? I was once playing in the shower.
He's not wrong.
I'm pretty sure it was Sanch and Zach that was involved in that from what I've heard.
Do you ever see? I've
heard that about them.
I saw this thing on Instagram, and it's phone booth fights. So essentially, it's MMA but in a phone booth. That's kind of what I would think. Like Qzar in a shower would be. You'd be in pretty close quarters. Does anyone ever smash?
It's definitely tight.
Like anyone else in the face with their gun? The way they like quick shot.
I mean, I haven't seen it myself, but I could understand it, especially because people tend to get close to each other in 1v1s in Qzar, because Qzar is the only system where you are legally allowed to physically cover your sensors.
Yep.
So people tend to try to get close to get around that.
Yeah.
I've never seen anyone get hit in the face, but I have seen somebody blow out every ligament in their knee trying to lean back away from a shot. So that was actually my first Armageddon, where my captain blew out his knee in the middle of the tournament playing Hotel Qzar.
Just laser tag things.
What I would love to see, what would be really cool, is you you play a bunch of 1v1s in a mosh pit at a metal show, right up front. Just that would be so fucking awesome. Can someone make that happen?
This is your way to recruit disco into the Qzar Armageddon scene.
Yeah. That'd be really cool. That'd be a dope music video.
Disco Monkey, not Disco Stew, that is.
Yeah.
Chat. What's up, Stu?
What up, Stu? Right on, dude. That sounds really awesome. I'm glad that like the tournament was seemingly a success, because I've heard mostly nothing but good things, and the one bad thing I've heard is not really any of the player base necessarily, but yeah, pretty good, pretty successful overall maybe. So we take our goggles and we point them in the direction of Nats, which is obviously just around the corner.
Yeah, it is.
How you feeling? How you feeling about Nats?
Well, I was feeling a little bit better before the message that I woke up to from Beans on Sunday. So
that's fair. That is entirely fair.
Especially because I work an overnight schedule, so I don't wake up until like 4 in the afternoon.
So you're on my time.
Seeing like 30 unread messages in our group chat and scrolling all the way up to see Beans and a picture of his arm wrapped, like, oh no.
Oh, that's
what happened.
There's always
you
one.
You were strict instructions not to get hurt, Cody, because otherwise we're never going to be able to book another guest again.
You want to be on the show?
I guess I'm sitting out a kickball the next week to make sure I don't hurt myself.
You should be doing that anyway. I tell people, why stop fucking around with your bodies before Nats. They got people counting on you.
I've got to go on a ski trip before Nats, so is what it is.
I've got like 3 soccer games between now and then, so.
But that's I don't know.
But that's what non-contact, like softball.
It's like part of your training regimen, though. But I guess so was softball for Bean. So I don't know. I don't know what's the proper thing to do. You want to train, but you also don't want to get injured.
So for those who didn't
just don't
hear,
go too hard. All right.
for those who didn't hear, what happened to Beans?
So Beans was playing softball like he does every Sunday, and I guess he was trying to slide to make a catch in the outfield, and his glove just stuck into the ground and bent his arm back, and it broke his arm right above the wrist.
Oh my god, dude.
That's what I'm saying. You can play your sports, play your weekly sports, but you don't need to go hard. You don't need to be sliding and doing shit. You fucking tryhards. Come on. Save that tryharding for Nats.
Yeah. I can't, that's right up there with, it's probably the second most gruesome softball injury I've ever heard of. I'm looking right at you, Tales of a Servant. Oh, dude, that's gnarly. And like, there's always one person that carries something or that does something right before, or like in my case, when that starts.
Yeah.
So, but you guys have a ringer, yeah? You guys have managed to.
We have already managed to pick up a sub because Wookiee's coming in to replace him. Wookiee is coming out of retirement to replace Beans.
That's awesome. But from what I hear, Beans is still traveling with you guys and is still gonna try and play some games.
Yeah, I don't know about the playing games part. That one might be difficult, but he is gonna at least be there.
Okay.
Because I mean, he's already got all his flights and stuff booked and whatnot. So
yeah.
Okay. Well,
he's not gonna just not show up.
Well then he can be head ref. And this
I
seems
will
like
gladly hand that over. Go
yeah,
right ahead.
This seems like this seems like it's going to work out perfectly. Somebody who is not playing can be the head ref, and then DK and I don't have to deal with it.
Yeah, easy.
Ta-da.
You try not to ref for 15 years.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
well,
I'm pretty sure the fuck off message is coming into chat presently.
Yeah.
well,
I mean, he is still gonna be helping with like stats in the stream and stuff,
yeah.
so it's not like he's just gonna be sitting around. I mean, I like in all seriousness, really do appreciate all the stuff that Beans does for the tournament every year.
Sure.
We don't need to add reffing on top of that. Like, I'm not captain, I'm not coordinator, so if they need me to be head ref, that's fine. I can handle it.
It's so begrudgingly. It is a shame though, because obviously like how long you and Beans played together for, roughly?
At least since I started playing back in 16. So
yeah, right. So it's been
about
almost
8 years now.
Yeah, wow. It's a real shame, and like I don't want to like speak out of turn because I don't know. I feel like out of all the competitive sites, like I'm way out of touch with like the East Coast especially, but it feels like you and him are kind of the what's the word I'm looking for? Stalwarts, benchmarks.
The people who actually travel.
Yeah, the reps of your site, right? Like people kind of look to you guys for that guidance. So it is a shame to not have him come, because I mean, on paper the team was looking very strong. On paper,
I mean, every team looks strong on paper until you actually get it into the arena, and then you can figure out if it's actually strong. But yeah, I think the internal conversations around the Syracuse team and where it could potentially end up. I mean, it was definitely like, okay, well, that they're a dark horse for a grand final for sure, because that is a very talented team, and it was just really a question of how the team would perform in Loveland, with some players that maybe haven't played a ton in the last few years, but the recognition of the talent was there.
Mm.
Losing Beans, for all that we give him a lot of shit for being a jackass, because he is. I mean, that hurts. Trying to get anybody to step into
Any
his
team
god is
one of their
never gonna
best
be
two
good.
players. Like, that's a huge blow to them.
Yeah.
There's just no way around that. And like, Wookie's a perfectly good player, but I'm sure he would be the first to admit that he's not Beans. Like, he's coming out of retirement for a reason. Beans was planning on playing the tournament, so
Yeah.
it is a bummer, but I'm glad that you're still coming, Beans.
It's one of those where we're going in with like the same goals and everything that we had
Awesome.
before Beans got hurt.
Yeah.
Just we're gonna have to work a little bit harder for what it was now.
I think
Next
so.
man up. That's sports.
Have you have you guys? I'd imagine you have already, but any kind of does it make your lineup choices a little easier, or
To be honest, we haven't had any conversations about that since Beans got hurt. In fact, even before Beans got hurt, when we played tag
Yeah.
a couple Fridays ago, after Beans was done with the resupply that one week,
Yeah.
Beans wasn't even 100% sure what we were doing for a lineup with him yet. So
that's awesome.
we're going in there with the same old Syracuse mentality of we'll figure it out when we walk in.
I think that's good though, man. That like it's nice to have an idea, and because you guys have played for so long as a unit, you know what your strengths are. Like, and it just, I guess it depends on, how it looks when you get into that specific arena, right?
It's going to be one of those things where it's like we're probably going to end up having an idea of what we want to do, but considering everyone on the team either has not played in Loveland before or hasn't played in Loveland in a really long time, other than myself.
Yeah.
So it's going to be kind of one of those things where we're figuring out how everyone ends up playing in the arena, especially with if the last time you've played in Loveland is 2015, the way they play the arena could have changed significantly since
And it has.
9 years ago.
It has
So,
changed very significantly in that time frame. The meta was, barely evolved when we got there 9 years ago. It evolved a little bit, and then it has just continued to.
I mean, the
change.
broad strokes were still there. Like, third floor was really important and all that, but
But in
the
terms of
specifics of how to
security.
play the field, like the way that people move through it, the way the rotations go, the fallback spots, so all of that has definitely changed a lot since 2015. And while it's probably still never going to be my favorite field, I like it a lot more than I did when we played it in 2015.
I mean,
Like, it's an enjoyable experience going there.
to be fair, our team's a little different now than it was in 2015 as well. So
For sure.
it makes a difference.
Have you got a preference of role in that arena?
for myself, it's
Yeah.
Commander. At least from what I've had when I play there, I play almost the same way that I do in Syracuse, which
Right.
is weird considering Syracuse is not a 3-floor arena.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of myself and the way Beans plays with the whole farming the scouts for points and whatnot works just the same in Loveland as it does in Syracuse.
Yeah.
So
I know. See you, Doom. I know for us, from an Auckland perspective, like our whole identity as a site, I guess, has always been kill the resupply, and
Yeah.
it's actually to our detriment. Being so rigid in that philosophy of how to play, doesn't work in other arenas. Like, it's hard to do that in Brisbane. Seemingly it's very hard to do that in Loveland. Like, actually being able to break that. If someone's held up on the third floor, being able to break the third floor and kick in a resupply out is actually a really hard thing to do. Especially given all of the how open it is up there. So yeah, I guess if you're good at like farming points, like you're gonna have a ball in that arena. Right on. So who hasn't played that one out of your crew?
I know Jackal hasn't, because this is actually the first tournament he's traveling in the first place at all.
Awesome.
I don't remember if Evil ever has, because if he has, it's been a really long time.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
He's in chat. He could answer for himself.
Is he in chat?
It's been I would assume Wookiee has at some point, because I know he's been playing for a long time, but I haven't asked him since he just joined our team.
I
Right.
don't remember if he was there in 15. I can't remember now.
I don't think
But
he was.
I know both
He was?
Fox and Lenny have.
Yeah,
but
they
it
were
has
there in
been a long
15.
time.
I know that for
It has
sure.
been a long time for both of them.
I mean, it's been a long time since Lenny's played any lasers, right? He's been
I mean,
on
he
hiatus.
plays like he plays tag nights when we have him here, but
Oh,
as for a tournament, it's been a bit.
I mean, okay, I think for some reason, because I hadn't seen his name pop up for ages, it just for some reason it got stuck in my head. He hasn't played anything since like Sacramento, which is not the case. Right on. I'm
R.I.P.
yeah. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing your guys' games. I think I said this when Beans was on the pod. Like I'm looking forward to watching the games anyway. I think this is one of the most excited I've been to actually spectate in that. And most of that is seeing
good games.
Oh yeah, dude.
Good games.
Especially seeing how you guys are gonna go. Like there's, I think maybe for you guys you're in a unique position where there's not the same pressure. Like you guys don't have the same pressure as the other teams, but you have all the skill.
True.
Which I think puts you in a very advantageous position from a spectator perspective. So, man, I hope it ends up being really good for you guys.
I hope so too. Don't worry about that.
One we touched very briefly. I don't know if you guys had any more questions around Nats. I don't really want to pivot away from it, and I'm feeling the same feeling as I had when Beans was on the show. But I want to talk about Auckland Nats. But I kind of want to. Maybe we should have done this a long time ago. We should have had you guys on to talk about that show as a recap. About that Nats as a recap, because I felt, for me anyway, the games that we had with you guys, like whenever you look at like a lasers tournaments, there's usually like the tiers, right? The teams end up being in tiers, and I felt that the top tier was Brisbane and USA West, and then not too far below that was our team and you guys. Like I felt we were the most suited to each other. So it always fascinated me to get your guys' perspective of how that tournament went. But I mean, I don't know, would you be keen to like go into that in more depth later, or do you want to touch on it now?
I can talk about it now, I can talk about it later, I can do whatever you want.
Let's do both.
If you want to get Beans involved with it too, because he was also there, then I'm fine with holding off on that. But
I feel like as a later post Nats show,
I say we
probably
take
makes more
off and
sense.
nuke the entire site from orbit.
I feel
Just
like
give us the quick recap. Just do the broad strokes.
Yeah,
Like,
how
what
was
were your
Auckland for you?
Big takeaways from the tournament?
I mean, I had fun.
Yeah.
I had a blast. It was, if you don't count Canada, because Canada doesn't count, for all intents and purposes, it's the first time I've ever left the country for anything. I say Canada doesn't count because I live right next to it.
I thought you meant just in general Canada doesn't count.
For
America's half.
For me, going to Canada is the same thing as going to Pennsylvania. So for all intents and purposes, that doesn't really count.
I don't want to
But
go
it's
there
the first time I've traveled out of the country.
Yeah.
As the first time I've played with pretty much everybody that was on my team other than Bean. So that was definitely an experience. It was interesting having to map out an entire new arena again, because I haven't had to do that since playing in Loveland. And in the tournament that I played with in Loveland, I didn't even really have any expectations for the tournament, so I was kind of just chill for that. So this time is one where it actually mattered.
Yeah.
So it was fun, kind of like checking out the arena, strategizing it, finding out that your guys' blue base is basically the exact same thing as Edor in Syracuse. So we were like, oh, we might actually be able to make this downstairs spot work a little bit if we can figure it out. And we kind of did for the most part, except for maybe when we were playing Brisbane.
Yeah.
Because Briz. But we kind of had the same idea going into the tournament, that it was going to be like USA West and Brisbane at the top tier, and then us two who could potentially steal games from them. But we're, for all intents and purposes, likely a little below. So we kind of had the same idea going into it.
Well, I think for us, like, we were a little bit cocky before the tournament. Our expectation was we're gonna win this. Like, yeah, playing Brisbane's gonna be hard. We're gonna smash all the US teams though. It's gonna be easy. Wasn't the case.
Probably didn't help that I was being a pain in Morange's ass the entire turn, considering I canceled like 4 of his nukes.
You were the bane of his existence, man. He's so shitty, and I give him shit about it even to this day. But like, I'm only like 80% joking, or 20% serious. There we go. I'm only 20% serious. It is one of those things, I think, where you had his number a couple of times and then it got in his head. So like his instincts for dropping nukes just like, yeah, went out the window. But
I still think my favorite one the entire tournament was where he was standing at the top of long ramp, just looking down the ramp, and I'm all the way down, just kind of peeking up at him. And we sat there looking at each other for a good 60 seconds with neither of us doing anything. And I turned around and took like 5 steps the other way, and I looked back, and he wasn't there anymore. So I started slowly creeping up the ramp, and all of a sudden I hear the nuke tone. I'm like, oh, you screwed that up, and just ran right in, and he's right there behind the half wall, and it's, what are you going to do at that point?
That's such a veteran move too, and like Nats is filled usually with players who do that shit. Like when you play locally, you might get 1 or 2 players that think that cerebrally about the game. Like, oh, I know that he knows I'm here, so if I do this, he's gonna do this, which means I could do that. Like that shit, you know, when it plays out the way you envision it playing out, there's nothing better than that.
It went even better because I didn't even know he had a nuke at the time. I was just trying to see if I could make my way up the ramp, and he starts dropping as I'm going up. I'm like, oh, this is even better.
That's so good, dude.
I can't take my eyes off him.
Yeah.
It's like when the squirrel sees the dog and they just like stare. It's like, I don't want to move.
Yeah.
This is gonna cancel my nuke. I can't take my eyes off him, but I have to wait till he leaves.
Yeah, it's that sort of shit's really funny. How did you find our arena?
Hectic. It was played very fast.
Yeah.
I thought I thought going into it that defending upstairs was gonna feel a lot like defending red side in Syracuse, because since everything's closed off, it's not like you have to worry about any kind of elevation except on the ramps itself. And just looking at the map, it's like, well, hey, this area looks a lot like this spot. And just like in our arena, I just got to take a few steps this way, and I'm into a different spot that looks similar to a spot in our arena. So holding upstairs, I think, would be very similar to defending red side in Syracuse. It's just the thing is getting the foothold upstairs in the first place. And
one thing that I noticed, specifically with our games, is that there were, and we did on the deep dive, I think, that Deke and I did. A lot of our games, each team is on each side of the upstairs part for so long, just trying to battle for that dominance, and nobody wanting to like give it up, which is kind of like usually the way it goes in Auckland is whoever gives upstairs up is probably gonna win. Not necessarily, but probably they have such an advantage holding upstairs because it's so much harder to break into than downstairs.
We were kind of thinking, or at least myself and the Resupply were kind of thinking, like, if we're both upstairs, that getting rid of you guys would be the job of Beans and the scouts and whatnot. I don't want to overextend, because if I overextend and you put me down, or something happens, I completely miss, and somebody puts me down, and you guys can get a free rush in and then force us down, that's a losing situation.
Yeah.
I'd rather have them try to push you out and it just be a deadlock the whole time than overextend, fail, and get pushed down.
Yeah.
It's better if we're both upstairs than you're upstairs and we're not.
Well, you're right, and it does in that instance become the job of your offense to kick that, to kind of pinch from the other side and kick them down. But yeah, it was just a lot of games where like nobody's giving an inch. It was awesome games to play, awesome to be a part of. Gives me chills rewatching the games. I'm glad we have the footage that we do, and because like we had the cameras upstairs, you could see most of the action of those games. So that
the best part is that that one that I was talking about that I had canceled Orange, it
Yeah.
was right in that spot where the camera is. You can see the whole thing on the stream. You can see him spending 60 seconds looking down the ramp, and then turning around and crouching behind, and then hitting the button, and then me running right around the corner.
And I
You see
think
the
he-
whole thing. It was perfect.
I don't think he turns. I don't think he turns to try and shoot you. I think he attempts to run away from you.
No, he sat there the whole.
Did he? Oh, okay.
By the
I'm
time
not
I got up
thinking
there, it was like this close to getting off. So he was probably just hoping that he could stay low,
Right.
and it would get off before I got around the corner. And he did have a scout in there. One of the King brothers was in there, so he
Yeah.
was probably hoping that he would shoot me first.
Yeah.
He didn't. So
That's awesome.
it's kind of just he was probably hoping for better timing than what he got.
Happens.
Yeah. Story of Nats. Well, yeah, like I'd be keen as to do like a full deep dive into the tournament at some point with you guys because, I don't know. It's one of the reasons we had this podcast was just so we can reminisce about shit. But let's cast our eye back to next week. What do you kind of want out of the tournament? Like, what's the goals?
Well, ultimately, the goal is getting a medal,
Yeah.
getting top 3. It's definitely going to be harder work now without Beans.
Yeah.
But I think that even with the core 5 and having the experience that Wookiee has, it's definitely still something that's doable.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to take probably more effort now than it was before.
It's in play for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
It's harder, but yeah, I'm like, that's a pipe dream. I'm like, no,
I still
it's impossible.
similar to like Auckland. I think there's like a definite difference between like top 2 and then maybe like the next 3 or 4 and so on and so forth. So even with us losing Beans, I don't think we really dropped that much. I think we're still in that same region that we were before. So I think everything is still just as in play as it was. It's just going to be a little more difficult.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be so awesome to watch this tournament. It'll be cool actually because obviously I'm doing the commentary for the most part myself, and Scythe will be doing commentary for the week. With Beans now sitting most of the week on the sideline, we might have to bring him in a little more than we otherwise would have, which I think would be kind of cool.
Beans.
Yeah,
He's like your sideline reporter, essentially.
exactly. I kind of want him to do that role. So yeah, it'll be cool. I think it's gonna be an interesting week from a spectator perspective. We're gonna try and make it as enjoyable, almost as enjoyable as if you were gonna be there in person. Because obviously that's the ultimate enjoyment of the week is actually getting to be there. Almost. This is the next best thing.
You gotta show up, so get out there next time, people who aren't coming.
I feel attacked.
That sounded way cooler in my head.
Yeah, I could tell like partway through that it was the oh wait no
Nope. Those
this
words.
This is not going the way I thought it was going to, but I've committed to the bit, so I'm gonna finish the sentence. But damn,
I did a chat GPT. I said nothing of substance.
that was so much better in my head. DK, it's cool. I don't know anything about having things sound better in your head and then vocalizing them and realizing they go.
Well, that sounded weird. That was different. I am actually I'm curious to see because there's still some gaps as far as I'm aware in some of the rosters. I could be wrong. But
I don't know how updated it is, but the last time I looked at the roster post that that Tucker had on Facebook,
yeah.
I think the only team that had 5 was the St. George team. I think everyone else had 6.
Hang on.
I don't know how updated it is or how accurate it is, but
I'm sure there's a spreadsheet somewhere that has.
Looking at it right here. The one that I have has only 5 for Motor City.
Does that well, okay.
Oh, wow.
I'd heard some couple of things. All right.
St. George added Grack.
Okay, I was gonna say because I heard some rumors that Grack might also be unretiring from laser tag, and stepping in there. And I don't know if she's been added to the roster, but my understanding is that Lizzie, who's one of the newer Loveland players, was also going to join one of the rosters. I can't remember if it was
Maybe
Detroit
Motor
or St.
City.
George though.
Yeah.
But I think she may have been available as a merc and might have gotten dropped into the mix.
Okay.
But this is like third-hand information for me, so
I'm
apologies.
gonna
It's not
speculate
correct.
wildly.
Yeah, I have some second-hand information I can share, but the third-hand it starts breaking down a little bit.
Yeah.
This is with Motor City.
Oh,
So-
okay. I need
so-
some photos.
Yeah, so next week's show, which will be basically very shortly before both DK and I fly out the next morning, we can fully go through all teams, all rosters, and do our predictions. That's my favorite show of the whole year, is the show right before Nats, where we have like the roster lock-ins and we can actually
Yeah.
talk about specifically like where we think people are going to end up.
The hottest possible takes.
Oh yeah, it is my favorite.
Let's get drunk and do that show.
No,
I cannot because I still have to go get my hair did that night. So as soon as we finish the show, I'm going over to Autumn so she can do my hair.
Amazing. All right. Well, look, I think that's probably gonna do us for this week. Cody, is there anything else you wanted to announce or touch on or talk about? You got a soapbox?
I guess the only thing that I'll mention is that for anyone who's interested, including the people I reached out to last year, I am going to be trying to make a Force team again for Geddon this year.
Awesome.
And it looks like we're looking at Plan A right now is like a Michigan to Ohio route, which means we would use Detroit for Force. That could be either a good thing or a bad thing for you. That's your own thoughts. At least my thoughts with that whole route is the cons, I guess, is there's Gen 7 Force. Unless that gets changed, I've heard there's some rumors about that. Gen 7 for Force, and Tron is kind of subpar. But the benefit is it's like the only route we have where we can play in an actual real Storm arena. So there's that too.
Cool.
That's right. That's right, 'cause
So
George's-
assuming that ends
George's
up being
on
the
that,
plan, that's the route that we're looking at, and I will be looking to try to get a Force team together for that again, since not going to be a draft this year, so you won't have to worry about that.
Well, I think you got a better shot too with that being a little bit more open to the East Coast players, because not that I don't think there are players on the West Coast who aren't interested, but I think that maybe in the Detroit, Syracuse, kind of that whole network scene, it's a little bit maybe easier to get some of those Force players to commit to doing a Geddon event. So I'm hoping good things there.
Do you know when that event is? Is that 2024 or 2025?
It'll be next summer. As the actual specific dates, obviously this far out we don't know yet, but they're, I think, gonna look at what other systems Nats are doing and try to coincide with that a little bit.
Oh,
Like,
cool.
I think they're looking at doing either the week before or week after whenever Zone has their Nats.
Right.
But obviously we won't know anything until we get much closer and actual sites are figured out and dates and whatnot. So
Yeah,
this is way in advance plans.
planning another overseas trip next year is probably going to make the financing on that a little tight for me, but that's still a long ways off. We'll
Yeah.
see.
You could win the lotto between now and then.
Yeah, who knows?
If you do, let me know.
Anything could happen.
Yeah, I that'd be dope. Like, because and I'm pretty sure, fairly certain that Nats Laserforce Internationals will be in Brisbane next year. So if you can't make it to that, but you still need a fix of like highly competitive laser tag, Armageddon sounds like a really awesome option. Because
It
it's
is.
yeah, that'd be really dope. Q's 2026. Yeah, why not? Unless we go to Europe. But that's a
See, 2026 in Cuse would be great, because at least the way Geddon has been going, we've been going to New York like every other year. So if they decide to have
Double it.
Geddon the week before Nats, just go for a 2-week trip instead of one, and you can play both.
have it week after so that Beans doesn't
Or
break
either
anything.
way.
Fucking Beans. And the World Cup. What World Cup? Soccer?
Soccer World.
Who
Soccer World
cares?
Cup
Oh
in
yeah, I totally
2026.
forgot about that. I totally forgot about that. Never mind, I'm out in 2026.
Yeah, I can't do it. Football.
I'll probably be in insert city name here.
Is that around the same time?
Yeah, Yeah,
Summer.
it's a summer tournament, so that
Oh.
that actually is going to complicate 2026 planning no matter what we do. But that is not a problem for now.
It's next
That is
year's
not
problem.
even a
That is a problem for later.
yeah. That is
Much
very
later.
much a future all of us problem. But that is gonna be a problem.
If I make it to 2026, I'll be stoked. We'll see. Cody, thank you, bro, for coming on to the show, man. I appreciate it. It's nice to have catch up and hear your thoughts and get your take on how stuff went down. I would very much like to have you back on after Nats, if you'd like to have to come back on and share your war stories and I don't know, we'll pick your brain again. That sounds like a goer.
Yeah, I'd have no problem with that.
That'd be sweet. Ladies and gentlemen, we are rounding the corner. The hype train is about to pull into the station. Tickets have been checked, and you're on your descent, because that's the thing that happened with trains. I've lost the metaphor. That's all right. Nats is right around the corner.
So, Steve-O, did that sound better in your head?
Yeah.
Can I give you a couple notes on that, Steve, before we go?
Yeah. And take two, go. Nats right around the corner. We are very, very so close. You could lick it. You shouldn't, because we live in a post-COVID world. But it's so close that you could lick it. I'm real excited. It's gonna be awesome. I'm only a little bit jealous that I'm not gonna be traveling out to see you guys next week, as things stand right at this particular moment.
Yeah.
I love
Hey, you're running that caveat.
Yeah.
I love that you always have to run that caveat because with you, it is not certain until
It's certain.
Until it's certain,
Yeah.
because you do have this habit of randomly popping up when we're not expecting it.
I mean, I'm not like Beans. I'm not going to turn up the day that the tournament ends. But I think it's a less likely thing because there's a bunch of stuff going into making sure the stream is awesome. So I'm pretty committed to that. But it's going to be awesome nonetheless. I can't wait. We've got one more podcast until that happens. Next week, hopefully we'll be back in with some more Lego streaming. Oh, by the way, Cody, is that a bunch of Lego behind you?
Yeah, it's all my younger brothers from when he was a huge Lego nerd when he was younger.
Oh, that's so rad. Let me know if you want me to take it off your hands, because I will. Just put it in a box, send it down to my house, and where you go. I'm working on this bad boy right at this particular moment. It's fucking awesome. But yeah, we'll be hopefully doing some more crafty cunts during the week. Thunderdome Thursday, and then we'll be doing our final pre-Nats podcast before Laserforce Internationals 2024. I forgot what year it was. So, dude, it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. There's lots of stuff in the works. But for this week. For this week, I've been Guy Next Door.
I've been DK.
I've been Than.
I've been Cody.
Nailed it. Always remember to backtrack, kids. We will see you next week. Kakite.
I've been throwing daggers in the night. I've been chasing all the stars, stealing all the lights. The cut so sharp, cut so deep. If they seem to